you are walking along through life, then suddenly something as small as a little bit of water changes everything. Welcome to the 200th episode of the Parable Podcast. We did it! I'm your host, Danielle Zapchenk, and I am so thankful that you are joining me today. It's just going to be you and me as I share a memory from this summer and kind of an update of where I am. I find myself at an unexpected place, like most of us do from time to time in our life. What I planned to do for my 200th episode, or what I thought my body was capable of doing, or just where I was at emotionally, is much different than I thought. So I'm going to save all of that idea and that episode for the future. It is kind of reflective, but we are going to talk a little bit about what I've been up to. So one of the things that I've been doing this past year is training for Rim to Rim. It is a hike literally across the Grand Canyon. I believe it's around 24 miles. So you go down and up and you do it in one day. Now, most people don't have to do it in one day, but my friend Kelly, she is the founder of the Baton Pass. If you've listened to a couple episodes, you've probably heard her voice before, or as you listen to some of the collaboration episodes. She asked me probably this past spring, I believe, and she just kind of started like, hey, I have this idea. And I knew before she even finished what the question was. If it had to do with any kind of adventure or any kind of opportunity experience, I was in. And so she said, hey, some of the executive team would be going and challenging ourselves to do this Rim to Rim and raise money for the Baton Pass, and just let everybody know that nobody walks alone when you walk through the valley, when you go through those hard things in life. So I've been training for the Grand Canyon. For my mind, it's been a while just because I just kind of need to get there. And Kelly and I have gone up to 9-mile walks. I got my hiking shoes for Christmas this past year. There is a plan of training, all of these things. And so leading up to the end of May, our family went on our vacation. After the kids got out of school, we went to Mexico, and it was just so fun to be with them. And I remember going into it thinking, I really want this to be a time of rest. You know, we go through our day-to-day and just we're going back and forth. And this would be a space where we could just hang out by the pool, eat some good food, enjoy each other's company. And we did do that. And I remember halfway through our vacation, we were there for 7 days. I went to a yoga class, and I remember balancing on one leg. There's just like, I think it's called the swan pose. And even the instructor that was leading it, she's like, oh, can I take a picture of you? Like, you just look so strong. And so like, I can't believe you got that far. And so I remember looking at that picture later, and also just like walking to the hotel, through the hotel lobby, getting my coffee that morning, just be like, yeah, I feel so great. And then 2 hours later, Reed and I were walking by the pool. Now, the day before, maybe 2 days before, Eric and I were walking in that same spot, and he had slipped. And he kind of grabbed my shoulder, and I thought it was a bird that was attacking me. Why I thought it was a bird, I don't know. But it was just Eric. He slipped and grabbed my shoulder, and he was able to he never like fell to the ground or anything like that. But me, Reed and I are walking, and it happened so fast. My left foot slipped on some water. I had some Old Navy sandals on that probably were 100 years old, and no traction. So that wasn't probably the best choice. I know that now. And I rolled my left foot to the left, and I think it went underneath. I'm not really sure exactly what happened, but it didn't feel great. I was able to stand up, and in that moment, I knew something wasn't right, because I kind of felt a pop or something, just a sharp pain. And I just remember sitting like back into the pool, and I'm like, I looked at it, I'm like, this is not right. Something's not well. We talked to the lifeguard, and they just gave me a bandage. And then Eric and Edie made it over. We propped up my foot. We got some ice. I've never had a sprain or a fracture or a broken anything before. And so I'm just kind of going off of what I feel. And I knew something wasn't right, but we were halfway through our vacation and I just kind of wanted confirmation that I didn't need to go into surgery in Cancun. Thankfully, there was a doctor on site and he said it wasn't completely broken. He believed it was just a sprain. But I just remember laying in that room. I made our family just get out of there for a second because I just kind of need a second to mope through and just process and just rest. And I just remember praying and asking God, like, is this going to happen? I'm immediately just going to the Grand Canyon. Like, I felt like everything I worked for is possibly over. Like, we went there. And that's what grief does. You know, you immediately go to that dark place. And that's what I did. The doctor at that point, he said it wasn't broken. So we did get a wheelchair. We went on our excursion, which I don't even know how I did, but I did it. We went snorkeling and it wasn't ruined. Even the process through immigration, because you were in a wheelchair, let me tell you, that was the fastest process through immigration that we ever came back to into the United States. We had friends that we saw in line and it was at least an hour and a half for them. So I remember Reed looked over at me and he says, Mom, I think you need to get her more often if we do this. Oh gosh. So I learned I have a high pain tolerance. Once we came back from Mexico, I was walking on it and I kind of had it just in this like sprain thing. But something within me kept kind of just popping up of like, maybe you should just get this checked out. Like if you are going to walk 24 miles across the Grand Canyon, maybe you need to just confirm all is well. And I remembered this doctor that my friend had went to locally. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to go check. I'm sure it's nothing. Well, I get there. They take some x-rays. I meet Dr. Amir and he comes in. I'm talking about what I envision for this Grand Canyon. I'm so proud of myself for training. And he's like, I'm so sorry to meet you for the first time, but you have a misaligned fracture of the fifth metatarsal. And so I've learned plenty of words that I didn't know existed before May. And basically, if you look at your hand, there is like your little pinky joint. And it's kind of that. And so when I rolled it, it pulled it back and there's a tendon attached to it. And that's what did the damage. That's the pop that I felt. So I didn't take it well. Of course, if you know me, I am a crier and I was just frustrated in that moment. And I started crying and I asked him, I'm like, did I do something wrong? And he's like, no, that's just naturally what happens. And he's like, the good thing is you came in because I was within that 3-week window of being able to actually fix the situation. Because if I didn't, it would have been really bad. So from that whole experience, I have learned a couple of things. I ended up going into surgery, I believe it was on June 19th. And so it's been a couple weeks so far as you're listening to this. And I have definitely seen God's goodness in certain areas. Let me tell you, I don't feel like this every day, but I do try to remind myself of these little things from time to time, because what it does, it helps me get out of my head, get sad that things feel lost or hard or challenging. And so here are a couple of things that God reminded me that he helped me remember as I was preparing for surgery. He helped me remember this foot doctor that I even made the appointment because I really wasn't going to do it. I was like, I'm just going to work through the pain. God did give me a high pain tolerance. He was surprised that I was still walking on this and the doctor. And so I remember that it allowed me to get through our vacation in a sense, and it didn't completely suck. We had a great time still. I wanted to still be present this summer, which I am. And I have the scooter. And I really use that the first week and a half. And actually, it's kind of fun. It feels like you're on a skateboard. For long periods of time, it's a little uncomfortable. But to get to the bathroom, I mean, it's genius. Thank you to whoever created that. I did bedazzle my boot. Only because if he said I could wear this up to 8 weeks, I don't want to look at this ugly boot. every single day. I want it to bring me a little joy, a little laughter. And also, it's a great talking point to the people I meet. Just to see how friends cared for me in that time. I have a really hard time asking for help. And yeah, I was even able to preach during this. Now, I did write my message prior to surgery because I wasn't sure how much drugs, if I was going to be on anything, and I didn't really want that to impact my writing. I was able to preach, and I walked up the stairs in my boot, and literally the day before and the day after, I could not do that because the pain was a little hard, but I was able to do that day. And I was like, thank you, God. I remember waking up from surgery in the recovery room, and the doctor had mentioned there was kind of 3 different options of what he hoped for. A being the best option with just 1 screw, and it was very minimally invasive, and he just kind of pops it in there. That sounds like magic to me, but he did do that. So obviously the worst case scenario is to put a plate in. We were hoping not for that, but he said if it was a screw, it's going to be around like 30 to 40 minutes. So I remember waking up, I was really groggy, but I asked the nurse that was next to me, I said, do you know how long surgery was? And she said 37 minutes. And I'm like, yes. So I am so thankful that it was just 1 screw. So now I'm bionic. Also, I really felt like surgery, even though I had to not eat until almost 4 p.m. God was with me. I felt loved and supported by my family and friends, and it was just good to have Eric with me. And I got to have Culver's and cheese curds right after. So that was fantastic. Even like the surgery room, they were playing Hall & Oates in there, and everybody was just lovely. The whole team was great, and I'm just so thankful for that. I've learned that I am an impatient person. I believe that I have patience, but when you're in moments like this, it's so funny to see how maybe just things that are trying, that are hard, really brings out that impatience. And ultimately, it's mostly in myself. Impatience of healing, impatience of feeling the pain, of even trying to make medical appointments. Gosh darn it. Like those first couple of days of trying to get into surgery and calling over to the ladies that are on the phone. Now, I was highly sensitive and emotional, but I just felt it was so hard. We need to come up with a better way of making medical appointments because that was really challenging. So I felt my patience being tested. I like to walk through Lectio Divina, and there is an app. I can put that in the show notes. Every day, it kind of walks through different portions of the Bible, different prayers to help you focus and center your day on God. And so one of the prayers, it was on June 23rd. So this is a couple of days after surgery. I wrote this down, and this was a prayer within the app. It said, Lord Jesus, I yield to your timing. When I'm impatient, help me to wait for your promise, so that when the time is right, I can passionately pursue your purpose. And then my prayer underneath it for myself, it said, God, help me to be patient because this is very hard for me. It is very, very hard, that impatience. And I guess in those moments, I kind of think like, why is it so important? What am I really feeling? Emotions are really good for me to help me navigate, okay, what is the true feeling of impatience? So if you feel impatient today, or if you feel impatient tomorrow, it's going to happen for any one of us. I would ask yourself, like, what is that prayer that you really are desiring that God wants to teach you through that? I've also started physical therapy. I'm literally only on day 2 as we are recording, but the first day, they just kind of do an evaluation to kind of see where your range of motion is at. And once I took off this big boot, unwrapped everything, he's like, I want you to, flex your toe this way. And gosh, in my mind, it was going so much further, but I could see based on my other foot, it wasn't. And then, just because it kind of hurts, it's sore, your body is trying to protect itself. So as he is trying to mobilize my foot a little bit more, he's just like, I need you to stop resisting. And I said, I'm really trying. Like I'm so in my head, and he's trying to talk to me, and I'm navigating, answering questions, asking him questions, but also at the same time, like, I do not want you to touch this certain area. And I told my friend Kelly the next day, as I was so sad about just trying to curl my toes, that it's so hard. And we do that with God. We resist so often because we don't want to feel the change, the pain, the hurt. Maybe it's experiences from the past. We don't want to walk through that because it brings that pain. But sometimes when we walk through that pain, it's helpful because there is something on the other side, something that he's trying to help us work through. There's a song that kept coming to my mind when I thought about resisting. It's Pat Barrett. It's a worship song. At least we sing it as a worship song. It's called Into Faith I Go. And the chorus says, to the ups and downs, the highs and lows, the taking in, the letting go, to the tears and laughter, to the great unknown, to the open journey, into faith I go. You know, when we resist, we're actually pushing away our faith. And we need to be able to allow that uncomfortability so that like draws us closer into our relationship with God. I'm sure if you go back and think about those uncomfortable points in your life, that's actually when your faith grew, when you were challenged. And I told Eric, you know, there's so many times I've told people like, hey, let's not resist, like build that patience up in you. All the things that I tell people here on this podcast, everything is like being flooded back to myself of like, hey, remember how you told people this? Well, now you actually have to actively live it. And right now I'm at this pain where I feel it's definitely manageable. I'm really only on Advil every now and then, but it's just this nerve pain because all the nerves are waking up. And my physical therapist said that's actually a good thing to feel it, even when it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it's hard. Finally, it's just asking for help. I tell people all the time to ask for help, but when it comes to me, it's just like, oh, well, I'm an independent person. I can do this, or I know I've done this in the past, and I don't know what healing looks like, but I'm committed to working hard in it. And part of that process is asking for help, is taking things slow and choosing to rest, which all of those things are really hard. But I'm trying to remember though, when I feel those emotions, when I feel those thoughts, of like asking, like changing the idea of turning that around and saying, God, I need you. I need you in this moment, because it's so easy for us to choose to do it by ourselves. Because like, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm just trying to move my toes. I'm just trying to get to the bathroom. Like I shouldn't have to ask God for help in this. But we do, because it's an automatic response for us to draw closer to him. So here is my 200th episode. I didn't think this is where I would be on this 200th day, but let me tell you this. I was telling my physical therapist what I've gained through this podcast is learning a lot about myself, understanding empathy for other people. And so I can think back through and go to these different stories and say, wow, God has got them through that as well. This is possible with him. So thank you so much, truly, for listening. Whether this is your first episode or you have listened from day one, I so appreciate it. I didn't think that this was an option for me, podcasting. Like that's not what my trajectory was. I'm grateful that my husband pushed me to continue to share my story, my parables, but also allowing a space to have other people share their stories in a way that is just so beautiful and encourages others. I hope you know that your parable, the stories in your life are important too. And this has created a space for you to know that you matter, that it sparks something within you, that you can realize that Jesus has been walking alongside you every step or every hop, every hobble along the way. He's been there. So in that idea of raising funds, I would love to ask you for your help. I don't know. I really hope that I can make it to the Grand Canyon. I don't know what timeline that's on, and I'm trying to be patient with that. But this fall, the Baton Pass executive team, Kelly, Angela, Whitney, and myself are planning to hike the Grand Canyon rim to rim. It's 24 miles. It's 6,000 feet of elevation. And ultimately, it's to raise funds and awareness for women walking through life's toughest valleys. That is the heart of the Baton Pass. So we want to make sure no one walks alone. And so I would love to invite you into that. Again, this is just another way that I'm asking for help in supporting myself. Whether I go or not, this is a great cause, and I'm really hoping I do. But every step we take is for the women who need to know that they're not alone. So I'm going to put a link in today's show notes. If you would like to donate any amount, it really would help fuel the mission of the Baton Pass and truly change lives as we head out there. Next week, we are back to our regular parable episodes with my guest, Amy Kemp. So if you want to connect with me, learn more about anything I talked about today, everything is available in today's show notes, or you can visit daniellezapchenk.com for details. I couldn't do this without my husband, Eric. He is amazing. I don't think we would have made it to 200 without him. So thanks so much, babe. I love you. That's it for today. I appreciate you spending time with me and just kind of hearing about where I've been the last couple of weeks. I just hope that this Parable podcast, it really helps you connect with what's going on the inside, whether that's impatience, it's a time to heal, a time to grow, so many different things. God is with you through it. And so I'm so thankful for you, and we'll see you next time on the Parable Podcast.
200 voices telling their tale of mountains climbed and hearts set sail. God's fingerprints on every page, stories of hope that never age. From whispers soft to thunder's roar, every soul shows there's something more. A tapestry woven, divine and true. Each thread of life, a point of view. Oh, the Parable podcast shines so bright. 200 stories lighting up the night. God's plan revealed in every word, a symphony of grace. His voice is heard. Through trials faced and victories won, God's work shines in everyone. A journey walked, a hand to guide, faithful love by our side. Every episode a beacon of light, testimonies shall take flight. In every voice His truth resounds, in His embrace we are found. Oh, the Parable podcast shines so bright. 200 stories lighting up the night. God's plan revealed in every word, a symphony of grace. His voice is heard. Oh, the Parable podcast shines so bright. 200 stories lighting up the night. God's plan revealed in every word, a symphony of grace. His voice is heard.